Hello friends, I welcome you all on this bird's eye view of electrocardiogram by Dr. Vishal'S Ecg. Okay, so as you can see in these slides, we all know that the impulse of the heart arises in this SA node, which is known as the pacemaker of the heart, which is situated in the right atrium. I mean at the top of right atrium, at the roof of the right atrium near superior vena cava. Okay, so after the impulse arises in the SA node, the impulse goes towards the AV node, right? So after arising from the SA node, impulse goes to the AV node. Okay, and in the AV node, we all know that there is approximately 1 second of pause due to AV nodal delay in 0.8 second of cardiac cycle. Okay, and then from AV node, this impulse traverses in common bundle of phase. This bundle of phase which further divides into two branches. This is right bundle branch and this is left bundle branches. Okay, and this bundle branches further divides in called Purkinje fibers, or we can say Purkinje fibers. Okay, so we all know that there are total 12 leads in a standard ECG. There are lead 1, 2, 3, which are the standard limb leads. Okay, they are bipolar leads. Why they are called as bipolar leads? Because on the one pole there is one extremity and on the other pole there is another extremity. That's why they are known as bipolar limb leads. Okay, and they measures the ECG along with the frontal plane. Okay, so they measure the ECG along with the frontal plane. Okay, then we have AVR, AVL and AVF. We all know that this AVR stand for augmented lead of right arm. This is right arm. Okay, this augmented lead of right arm, augmented lead of left arm and augmented lead of foot. Okay, and I mean these are the augmented limb leads. Okay, and why they are known as augmented? Because there is augmentation of 50% of the voltage. That's why they are known as augmented limb leads. Okay, these are the 6 leads which are there in the frontal plane. Okay, then we have another 6 leads which are known as chest leads, which are lying in the transverse plane. Okay, so these are V1, V2 and V6, and they are the leads which records the ECG in the transverse plane. Okay, so this is diagram which shows how you are supposed to attach the leads. Okay, so as you can see, let me shift this to this side. Okay, as you can see, we are used to remember this as R, B, G, Y. R, B, G, Y. Okay, so R is for right arm, B is for right leg. Okay, might well it is right leg. Okay, then G is left leg. Okay, and Y is left arm. So in this direction, and there's we can say anti-clockwise direction, R, B, G, Y. Okay, R, B, G, Y. Red, black, green and yellow. Okay, so there is mentioned that black limb is attached to right angle, red is attached to the right arm, yellow is attached to the left arm and green is attached to the left ankle. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Okay, then this is chest leads. Okay, these are the chest leads. Let me pause this. Okay, so okay, so what are the chest leads? These are the 6 chest leads from V1 to V6. Okay, these are the chest leads. V1 chest leads is the only chest lead which is lying on the right side of the heart. You can say this is the left side and this is the right side. Okay, so V1 lies on the right side. Okay, so it lies on the right side. Okay, so here is the V1 in the fourth intercostal space in right parasternal region. Then lead V2 is the fourth intercostal space in left parasternal region. Okay, and now forget lead V3. Okay, then we have lead 4, which is there in the fifth intercostal space. Okay, so lead 3 is there in fifth intercostal space. You can see lead 4 is there in the fifth intercostal space, lead 5 and lead 6, these are there in the fifth intercostal space, and lead 3 lie in between the lead V1 and V2. In between the lead V1 and V2 we have lead V3. Okay, so where is this leads, I mean where is this lead number V5 is in the fifth intercostal space, left mid clavicular line, fifth intercostal space, left mid clavicular line. V5 is in the left intercostal space, left anterior axillary line, and V6 is at the fifth intercostal space, left middle axillary line. Okay, now we are going to next slide. Okay, so this is a large square which I think all of you have seen in this ECG paper. Okay, so so this is showing this 6 second interval. Okay, and there is 3 second marker in a single piece of 12 lead ECG paper. We record the ECG for an interval of 6 seconds. Okay, so in this ECG paper, okay, if I can show you this ECG, I mean I can show you this square. Okay, I mean this large box. Okay, in this large box there are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. There are 5 vertical boxes and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 horizontal and vertical boxes. So in a large box there is 5 horizontal and 5 vertical boxes. Okay, so there is something known as standardization. So when an ECG is started, there is something like this, okay, which is almost 10 millimeter tall and 5 millimeter broad. Just before the lead 1, it is known as standardization. Okay, so after ECG you are, I mean just before you are going to check the ECG, you are supposed to check for standardization. Okay, then there is paper speed of 25 millimeter per second. Okay, standard paper speed is 25 millimeters per second. Okay, in some condition you can set it to 50 millimeter per second. Okay, so in one small box, okay, in one small box there is 0.04 second. Okay, so in I can say this is x-axis. Okay, this is x-axis which is lying on this horizontal plane, and there is y-axis which is lying there in the vertical plane. Okay, and this is y-axis. Okay, so on this x-axis you can see the time. Each small box constitute of 0.04 second, and each large box constitute of 0.2 second, and each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, each this big box of vertical is consisting of 0.5 millivolt, and each small box constitute in y-axis of 0.1 millivolt. Okay, so I hope you are clear with all these points of this ECG paper and the duration and the voltage of ECG. Okay, so as you can see in ECG, you can see there is P wave, there is Q wave, there is R wave, there is S wave. Okay, and this whole is known as QRS complex. Okay, PQRS, and there is another T wave, and sometimes you can encounter with so-called U wave. Okay, so P wave, Q, R, S, T are typically known as PQRST. Okay, so from the beginning of the P wave to the beginning of QRS complex, or to the beginning of Q wave, we can calculate so-called PR interval. Okay, what is QRS interval? From the beginning of Q wave to the end of S wave, that is QRS interval. Okay, what is PR segment? PR segment is from the termination of P wave to the initiation of Q wave, or the initiation of the QRS interval, that is PR segment. I mean, remember this thing, that whenever you are told segment never constitutes a wave. Okay, so whenever you are told interval, it constitutes of a wave. When you are called segment, it has flat line, there is no wave. Okay, so you can say that there is PR interval, PR segment, sorry, and there is ST segment. Okay, there is no wave. So what is ST segment? From the end of S wave to the beginning of T wave. Okay, and end of S wave is also known as J point. Okay, and there is T wave. Okay, and there is something called as QT interval. As I told earlier, that QT interval means it constitutes wave. So there is QRS complex, I mean QRS wave, and there is T wave, and these hold from the beginning of Q wave to the end of T wave. This all is considered as QT interval. This is QT interval. Okay, so all things are depicted here. Okay, P wave is there for atrial depolarization. QRS complex is there for ventricular depolarization, and T wave is there for ventricular repolarization. Okay, now again on this slide, this slide is showing that S4 is there near PR segment, which signifies the atrial filling phase of ventricular diastole, and there is S wave, which there is S1 sound just near the S wave. Okay, so it is the point where mitral and tricuspid walls, atrioventricular valves are closing. Okay, and after there is ventricular repolarization, there is S2, which occurs because of the closure of aortic and pulmonary semilunar valves. Okay, and this is the slide which we are going to learn in this session. Okay, and when you are going to check ECG, you are supposed to consider there are major 6 points which you are going to see. The first point is rate, second is rhythm, third is axis, fourth is hypertrophy or chamber enlargement, fifth is ischemia or infarction, and sixth is miscellaneous. So it is popularly known as R Rahim. Okay, that is this is R and the rest is Rahim. These are the 6 points which we are going to learn in this session. So first of all, we are going to learn basics of rate and the abnormalities of the rate. Okay, so how you are going to determine the heart rate? Okay, so calculation of the heart rate is popularly remembered by rule of 300. Okay, so what is the rule of 300? First of all, you are supposed to check what are the number of big squares in between the RR interval. Okay, so what is RR interval? Peak of QRS of two consecutive peak of R wave into consecutive QRS complexes is RR interval. Okay, for example, in this there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So there are 11 large boxes in between this. So the rate can be calculated by 300 divided by 11. Okay, so it would be less than 30 beats per minute. Okay, so if there is 3 boxes in between 2 RR interval, so it would be 100 beats per minute. Okay, 300 divided by 3, it would be 100 beats per minute. And if there is 5 large boxes in between the 2 RR intervals, it would be 60 beats per minute. Okay, so if there is something which is beyond 3 large boxes and beyond 5 large boxes, it is abnormal ECG. Remember this. If as we all know that the normal heart rate ranges between 60 to 100. Okay, so whenever the heart rate is lesser than 60 and it is greater than 100, okay, so it is considered as abnormal ECG. Okay, so you can measure formula by this 2 formulas. Okay, measure the heart rate 300 by big squares between RR interval, or formula second is small squares between the RR interval. It is to be divided by 1500. Okay, so let's take an example. If you have 3 large boxes, there would be 15 small boxes. Okay, so you are supposed to divide it 1500, okay, divided by, there are 10 large boxes. So how much would be the heart rate? For 3 it would be 100, for 2 it would be 150. Okay, so these are the pacemakers of the heart. As we all know, SA node is considered the dominant pacemaker of the heart. Okay, so whenever the SA node is poorly working, the rhythm can be taken up by AV junction or bundle of his. Okay, this is known as escape rhythm. Okay, so in those cases, the normal rhythm, the abnormal rhythm which is being taken up by AV junction or bundle of his would be somewhere between 40 to 60. Okay, it would be lesser than 60 beats per minute and more than 40 beats per minute. Okay, even if this bundle of his and AV junction fails, okay, the rhythm can be taken up by these bundle branches and Purkinje fibers. Okay, there is a mistake, there is AV node. Okay, bundle branches and Purkinje fibers, it is escape beat, and the rate would be somewhere between 20 to 40 beats per minute. So there is the labeling of the ECG. Okay, so whenever the this is the normal heart rate in between 16 to 100. Okay, so whenever there is rate between more than 100, it is considered tachycardia. Okay, so the normal junctional rate, as I told you earlier, is between 600, between 40 to 60. Okay, so if it is more than 60, then it is terminated as accelerated junctional rhythm. Okay, normal ventricular rhythm is between 20 to 40. If it is greater than 40 and less than 100, it is accelerated ventricular rhythm, and if it is greater than 100, it is considered as ventricular tachycardia. Okay, and if junctional rhythm is greater than 100, is considered junctional tachycardia. Okay, so there is difference between accelerated junctional rhythm and junctional tachycardia. If it is between we can say 60 to 100, if junctional rhythm is 60, it is still considered as accelerated rhythm, accelerated junctional rhythm. If it is greater than this, then it is considered as junctional tachycardia. Okay. So now we have completed rate. Now we are going to see what are normal rhythm and what is the abnormalities of rhythm, or we can say rhythm disorder. Okay, so please pay attention on this very important subtopic of ECG, that is rhythm. So when you are going to check the rhythm, first of all you are going to ensure that there should be P wave just before the QRS complex. Why? What is QRS complex? QRS complex is for ventricular activation, ventricular depolarization. Okay, so there should be P wave just before QRS complex. What it signifies? That whenever the ventricular depolarization is occurring, it is just after atrial depolarization, as we can see that the P wave is because of atrial depolarization and QRS is because of ventricular depolarization. Okay, and the all of the P waves should be of similar shape. So we can say that all the P waves are arising from the similar, from the same focus, that is in the SA node. Okay, in normal ECG. And then you are going to determine whether the rhythm is regular or irregular. Okay, so for determination of the rhythm, you are supposed to calculate RR interval or PP interval. Okay, then for rhythm, okay, you are going to measure the PR interval. As I told you earlier, an interval means it is consisting of a wave. So PR interval is from the beginning of P wave to the beginning of QRS complex, and it consists of P wave, and normal PR interval is 3 to 5 boxes, 3 to 5 boxes, that is 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. Okay, so anything, any PR interval which is beyond 5 boxes is prolonged PR interval, because the duration of that PR interval would be greater than 0.20 seconds. Okay, so what you are going to check in rhythm? So you are supposed to identify the P wave, okay, whether that is sinus or not. Then you are supposed to check the relation of the P wave to the QRS complex. Okay, so there should be all the QRS complex which are going to be which are supposed to be followed to all the P waves. Okay, then you are supposed to check for PR interval. Okay, and that should be in the range of 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. Okay, to rule out heavy block. Then you are supposed to check QRS complex. Okay, normal QRS complex is less than 3 small square, it is less than 0.12 seconds. Okay, to rule out any existence of bundle branch block. Okay, then you are supposed to check any relation of the RR complex and RR interval and PP interval. So what is the importance of RR interval and PP interval? Okay, so whenever there is RR interval is greater than PP interval. Okay, so RR interval means the difference between activation of ventricular depolarization or activation of the ventricle is greater than activation of the atria. So atria is generating its impulse. Okay, but these impulses are not sufficiently reaching to the ventricle. Okay, so this is termed as complete heart block. Okay, this is complete heart block. So the RR interval is greater than PP interval. Okay, and if the PP interval is greater than RR interval, it is termed as AV dissociation. So the atria is firing at its own rate, and this ventricular is firing at its own rate. Okay, so there is atrioventricular dyssynchrony, and this is known as AV dissociation. Okay, so how can you define what is sinus B? Okay, so whenever someone asks this, what are the characteristics of sinus B wave? Okay, so the P wave should be upright in most of the leads. It should be inverted in AVR lead. Okay, so we all know that AVR, all the leads are inverted than normal ECG. Okay, because AVR comes from the different direction. AVR comes from the right side. Okay, so all these leads, all these waves should be inverted than the normal ECG, and P wave is biphasic in V1. Okay, so this is considered as abnormality of P wave. Whenever you have three different morphology of P waves, it can be multifocal atrial tachycardia, popularly known as MAT. Okay, or it can be wandering pacemaker. Okay, you can see MAT in especially chronic lung disease patients, COPD patients. Okay, and if you have absent P, it can be indicative of atrial fibrillation or junctional or ventricular rhythm. Okay, then if P wave is buried, or if it is buried within the QRS, or if it is after QRS, it can be seen in SVT, or it can be seen in third degree AV block. So now we are going to see the abnormality of the PR interval. Okay, so what is PR interval? PR interval means from the beginning of the P wave, including from the beginning of the P wave to the beginning of QRS complex, and it includes P wave. Okay, and PR segment. Okay, so what it signifies? It signifies the distance, electrical distance, which is required to travel from the SA node, and for activation of the ventricle, it is PR interval. Okay, so we have two abnormalities. One could be shortened PR interval, and this another could be prolonged PR interval. This is prolonged PR interval. Okay, so short PR interval is it can be seen in pre-excitation syndrome, very famously known as WPW syndrome. Okay, that is Wolf Parkinson White syndrome. Okay, there's accessory pathway in WPW syndrome. There is another accessory pathway in LGL syndrome. There is bundle of Kent, and there is bundle of James. Okay, then another DD of shortened PR is AV junctional rhythm with retrograde atrial activation. Okay, then ectopic atrial rhythms originating near the AV node, and shortened PR intervals can be sometimes seen in as a normal variant. Okay, I mean shortened PR can be seen in some young age patient. Okay, then another abnormality of PR interval can be prolonged PR interval. Okay, so whenever you have first degree, second degree, or third degree AV block, there you can see prolonged PR interval. Okay, so what is first degree AV block? In AV block, there is intra-atrial conduction delay. There can be slowed conduction in the AV node, which is the most common site for first degree AV block, and there is slowed conduction in bundle of his, and there can be slowed conduction in the bundle branches. Okay, and there can be second degree AV block. It can be Mobius type 1 or Mobius type 2 block, and Mobius type 1 block can be popularly known as type 1 or Vankenbeck phenomenon, and type 2 Mobius block is known as type 2 Mobius block. Okay, and there can be third degree AV block. Okay, that is AV dissociation. Okay, so another thing you are going to check in rhythm is for QRS interval. Okay, QRS interval, normal QRS interval is, okay, what is normal QRS interval? Normal QRS interval is 0.12 seconds, that is 3 small squares. 3 small square is normal QRS pattern. So what are the conditions in which you can see wide QRS that is greater than 0.12 seconds? It is interventricular conduction delay, left ventricular branch block, complete right bundle branch block, ventricular tachycardia, and errantly conducted premature atrial complex. Okay, then as we have learned earlier that we are supposed to compare PP interval and PR interval. Okay, normally they are PP interval and RR interval, both are equal. Okay, so whenever the PP interval is less than RR interval, it is complete heart block, and whenever PP interval is greater than RR interval, it is AV dissociation. Okay, then in rhythm we can see that there is sinus rhythm, there can be heart block, it can be first degree heart block, it can be second degree heart block, Mobis type 1 block, second degree Mobis type 2 block, and there can be third degree type block, third degree block, and there can be left bundle branch block and right bundle branch blocks. Okay, then there can be some common supraventricular arrhythmia. Okay, so any arrhythmia which arises above ventricle at a supraventricular arrhythmia. It includes atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter, and supraventricular tachycardias. Okay, and there can be ventricular arrhythmia. Okay, so all the arrhythmias which arises is within the ventricle are termed as ventricular arrhythmias. Okay, premature ventricular contraction, ventricular tachycardia, and ventricular fibrillation. These are the examples of ventricular arrhythmias. Okay, so now we are going to learn what is the first degree AV block. Okay, first degree AV block. So as I told you that whenever the PR interval is greater than 5 small boxes, or whenever the PR interval is greater than 0.2 seconds, it is an AV block, that is for sure. Okay, so whenever this PR interval is greater than 20.20 seconds and there is 1:1 AV conduction. Okay, so there is first degree AV block. As you can see in this example, there is a QRS complex. Okay, this is PV. Okay, so if you'll calculate, this would be something around 5 plus 6 7. Okay, so 7 4s are 28, so there is 280 millisecond. Okay, there is 280 milliseconds of PR interval. Okay, so it is greater than 200 milliseconds, so this is AV block, and which is first degree AV block, and this is remaining constant in age leads. You can see there are small 7 boxes, there are 7 small boxes, there are 7 small boxes, here are 7 small boxes, and it is actually very benign than other types of AV block. Okay, this can be caused by drugs such as digoxin. It can be seen because of excessive vagal tone. It can be seen as ischemia, and it can be seen as intrinsic disease in the AV junction or intrinsic disease of the bundle branches. Okay, so what could be the cause of first degree AV block? There can be partial block at the AV node, I mean at this region. Okay, so as you can very well see in this slide, that first degree AV block, you can see that there is P wave. Okay, and there is QRS complex, and you can see that there are 8 small boxes. I mean there is 320 milliseconds or 0.32 seconds difference, and this is remaining stable in all the QRS complexes. There is 8 small boxes, there is 8 small boxes, there are 8 small boxes, there are 8 small boxes, there are 8 small boxes. Okay, so this is first degree AV block, as you can see in this example. Okay, there is first degree AV block. So what is AV conduction defect? The conduction of the normal wavefront can be delayed or blocked at any point after atrial depolarization, and the block may occur within the AV node below the bundle of his. Okay, below the bundle of his, you can see AV conduction defect. Okay, so what is the second degree AV block? Second degree AV block is popularly termed as Mobius block, or it can be termed as Mobius type 1 block or Mobius type 2 block. Mobius type 1 block can be also known as Vank-Beck phenomena or Vank-Beck block, and Mobius type 2 block can be known as Mobius type 2 block. Okay, so type 1 or Vank-Beck phenomena, that is the lesion which is above the bundle of his. Okay, so it is relatively benign than this. So in type 2 lesion, there is lesion in the bundle branches. So the type 1 lesion was above the bundle of his, and type 2 lesion is at the bundle branches. Okay, it can be right bundle branch or left bundle branch. Okay, so in type 1 lesion, the PR may prolong prior to drop beat. Okay, and in type 2 block, there is fixed PR interval and there is a drop beat. Okay, type 1, as I said earlier, that as it is relatively benign, it responds to pharmacological treatment, and type 2 does not respond well to the drugs. Okay, and type 1 Mobius block rarely requires pacing. Okay, and type 2, it requires pacing. Okay, it requires ventricular pacing. Okay, and in both this rhythm can be ventricular rhythm can be regular or irregular. Okay, this is the example of type 1 AV block, Mobius type 1 AV block, and this is the example of Mobius type 2 AV block. Okay, so as you can see that this is PR interval, this is PR interval, this is PR interval. Okay, so then this PR interval gets lengthened, then this second PR interval, this third PR interval gets lengthened, and there is a block beat. So for example, if you have 6 small boxes, then it happens 7 small boxes, then it happens 8 small boxes, and there is a block. So so you can remember it like lengthen block. Okay, 6, 7, 8 and block. This is type 1 block. Okay, so what is there in type 2 block? In type 2 block, you have fixed PR interval. Okay, for example, rather than the lengthening like 6, 7, 8, you can have 7, 7, 7 block. Okay, 7, 7, 7, 7 block, 7, 7 block, 7, 7, 7, 7 block. Okay, so this is type 2 AV block, where there is fixed PR interval and there is drop beat, and the lesion is at the bundle branches and it does not require pacing. Okay, so this is, we can see as classical Vank-Beck phenomena. Okay, there are 3 rules of classical Vank-Beck are: there should be decreasing PR interval until the pause. There should be an increase in PR interval and decrease in the RR interval till the pause. The pause is less than preceding 2 RR interval. Okay, we can very well understand. In the RR interval, after the pause is greater than the RR interval just prior to the pause. There are many examples of atypical forms of Vank-Beck where their rules won't hold, and Mobius type 1 block is Vank-Beck phenomena. Okay, and this is the example you can see. Okay, it lengthens and it gets block in this bit. Then the second degree AV block, that is Mobius type 2 block. Okay, there is as I told you earlier, that there is no there is consecutively non-conducted P waves. Okay, and there is no lengthening of the PR interval. Okay, as there is mentioned that PR intervals of the conductive beats are normal or prolonged, but it is constant. Okay, and the treatment of second degree Mobius block is pacemaker insertion, and there is third degree AV block or complete heart block. Okay, In a third degree AV block or complete heart block, you can see that there is AV dissociation, means atria is working at its own rate. Okay, atria is beating at its own rate and ventricle is beating as its own rate. Okay, so you can see that there is P wave, there is QRS. Okay, P QRS. Okay, so the P waves are the number of P waves is greater than number of QRS complexes. Okay, so PR interval is less than the RR interval. As you can see that there is PP interval, there is PP interval, and this is RR interval. Okay, so this is complete heart block and PP interval is lesser than the RR interval. This is PP, okay, and this is PR. This is PR interval. Then there can be atrioventricular rhythm, and the treatment of third degree AV block is pacemaker implantation. Third degree AV block treatment is pacemaker implantation. As you can see, PP QRS, PP QRS, P QRS, and PP atria is beating at its own rate and ventricle is beating at its own rate. Okay, so what you can see in this ECG, as I told you, there can be atrioventricular rhythm. Okay, there can be atrioventricular rhythm. This atrioventricular rhythm. Okay, so QRS duration. Okay, normal QRS duration is less than 0.5 seconds. Okay, and QRS duration, if it is greater than 0.12 seconds, it can be complete right bundle branch block or left bundle branch block, non-specific interventricular contraction delay, and there can be ectopic rhythm, so originating in the ventricles. Okay, but some are differential in which the QRS is less than 0.12, but the rhythm can be abnormal. It can be seen in incomplete right bundle branch block or incomplete left bundle branch block or incomplete RBBB or incomplete LBBB. It can be also seen in non-specific intraventricular contraction delay, and it can be also seen in some cases of left anterior or posterior fascicular block. Okay, so there is a bundle branch block, there is a left bundle branch block, and there is right bundle branch block. Okay, so that is very easy trick for remembering the bundle branch block. What we can see in bundle branch block. Okay, what we are supposed to see in bundle branch block, you have to consider lead V1, that is the first chest lead, and V6, that is the last chest lead. Okay, so whenever there is the right bundle branch block, there is RSR slash or RSR dash or rabbit ear pattern. Okay, and this is seen in anterior chest lead, and I mean V1 or V2. Okay, so you can remember this is a popular mnemonic, Marrow and William. Marrow. Okay, मतलब के RBBP. Okay, if there is RBBP, V1 would be N and V6 would be W. This is M. Okay, and V6 is like this W. Okay, and in LBBP you can remember it as like William. Okay, so in A1 it would be like W pattern, and in V6 it like be M pattern in LBBP. So Marrow and William. Okay, so whenever there is complete LBBP and complete RBBP, there is the QRS duration greater than 3 small boxes, that is greater than 120 milliseconds. Okay, as I told you earlier, QRS greater than 0.12 seconds. Okay, there can be monophasic R waves in lead 1 and lead V6. Okay, and there can be STT waves oriented opposite to the terminal QRS forces. Okay, this is RBBP, QRS duration in greater than 0.12 seconds, RSR dash or rabbit ear pattern in V1. Okay, R, S and R dash. Okay, in V1, that is rabbit ear pattern. Terminal QRS forces oriented rightwards and posterior. Okay, this is LPBB and RBBB. Okay, these are the fascicular block which is not important for you people. Okay, so your what are the points you are supposed to remember? That in left anterior LAFB, in left anterior fascicular block or left posterior fascicular block, the QRS duration is going to be normal. It is going to be less than 120 milliseconds. Okay, so what is the abnormality? Okay, the abnormality is which can be seen is in the axis. Okay, in axis what you can see, the frontal plane mean QRS axis is -45 to -90 degrees with RS pattern in lead to 3 AVF, means small r and capital S pattern in inferior leads and a small q and capital R in lead AVL. Okay, what is the pattern in left posterior fascicular block? The pattern in left posterior fascicular block is capital R and capital S pattern in lead 1 and AVL with small q and R pattern in inferior leads. Okay, so if you are if you are going to if you are supposed to try to remember it, just like you are, I am sure that you are not going to remember it. If you just remember that in left anterior fascicular block you are supposed to get LED type of pattern, and in left posterior fascicular block you are supposed to get right axis deviation type of pattern, RAD. Okay, so anterior LED, posterior RAD. Okay, just remember this, that is enough for you people. Okay, this is very complex diagram, not for you people. Okay, these are really hemi block. Okay, not very much important. Okay, so what is trifascicular block? Trifascicular block means there is RBBB or LAHB or LPFB associated with AV block, that is trifascicular block. Okay, this is bifascicular block, RBBB associated with LAHB and LPHB. Okay, and what is Brugada syndrome? Brugada syndrome is RBBB with ST segment elevation, ST segment COVID in anterior chest lead, that can be from V1, V2 or V3. Okay, there is a example of RBBB. Okay, RS pattern, RBBB with left anterior hemiblock pattern, left anterior hemiblock pattern. Okay, I told you that anterior hemiblock means left axis deviation. Okay, so left axis deviation means you are supposed to see one and this AVF. Okay, one is going in this direction, F is going in this direction, matlab this both are leaving each other, so left leaves, matlab is left axis deviation. Okay, so this is right bundle branch block and left anterior hemi block, because there is left axis deviation or leftward axis. So this is the another example of RBBB with LPHB. You can see that there is R dash pattern. Okay, and in this you can see that lead 1 there is a prominent negative deflection. Okay, and lead AVF there is prominent upward deflection. Okay, so both are reaching towards each other, that is right reaches, matlab right axis deviation. I asked you to remember LPHB as right axis deviation. Okay, so right axis deviation, right reaches pattern with RBBB. This is bifascicular block. Okay, of LPHB with RBB type. Okay, so how you are supposed to measure QTC interval? I mean, what is QT interval? There is the QT interval from the beginning of Q wave to the end of T wave. Okay, normally QT interval is 0.42 seconds at 60 beats per minute, but it changes as the heart rate changes. It can be considered, it can be calculated by Bézard's formula. Okay, corrected QTC interval is QT actual which is calculated from the rhythm strip divided by under root of RR. Okay, so you can remember this by this formula. Okay, there is homework for you. Okay, so what is the significance of QT interval? Okay, so whenever you can encounter with this condition of long QT syndrome, there can be studies depointers because of drugs, electrolytes abnormalities, CNS disease. There can be hereditary long QT syndrome, channelopathies like Romanov syndrome, and it can be because of coronary artery diseases. Okay, now we are going to learn this WPW syndrome, that is Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Okay, so in Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, there is an accessory conduction pathway present between atria and the ventricles. So this atria, okay, so this is heart, this is atria, SA node and AV node. Okay, so beyond this SA node and AV node, there is accessory pathway. Okay, and this accessory pathway passes an accessory impulse beyond this impulse of SA node. Okay, so there is SA nodal this. Okay, as this is accessory pathway, and it can be very well seen with this slurring, initial slurring in the R wave. It is known as delta wave. Okay, rate of WPW syndrome can be depending on the underlying rhythm. Okay, rhythm is regularly normal until it is associated with atrial fibrillation, and whenever there is atrial fibrillation with WPW syndrome, it is one of the most deadly condition. Okay, you are supposed to give DC shock to the patient unless and if you are not going to supposed to give DC shock to the patient would die. Okay, and P waves is normally upright and uniform unless if it is present, and QRS is relatively wide, greater than 0.5 seconds, and there is the presence of delta wave, that is the upsliding in R wave. Okay, so the association of the WPW syndrome can be with atrial fibrillation or atrial flutter. Okay, so there is relatively wide QRS greater than 0.10 second. There can be delta waves in V1. Okay, so there are basically there are normally two types of WPW syndrome. If there is WPW type A, and that is if it is positive, then there is type A, and it is lying on the left side. Okay, and if it is negative in V1, the QRS is predominantly negative, then it is type B. Okay, and it is on the right side. Okay, and that is short PR interval, as we have studied it earlier, that WPW syndrome, it is one of the DT of this short PR interval. Okay, so how you are supposed to remember this WPW syndrome type A or WPW syndrome type B? You are supposed to see in V1, if QRS complex is predominantly positive, if it is predominantly upright, it is type A. Okay, upright is type A. You can see upright means A, and if it is not upright, it is not like A, then it is negative, then it is type B. Okay, it is on the right side. Okay, so what you can see in this ECG, okay, just watch it for a few seconds. I'm zooming in for you people. Okay, so just check it. What you can see, this is short PR interval. Okay, you can see that there is almost 3 small square, I think. Okay, so there is short PR. Okay, short PR interval. Then there is relatively broad QRS complex with this slurring. Okay, slurring at the upstroke of QRS. Okay, you can see this notching, this slurring. Okay, What are this slurring? This slurring. Okay, this slurring is basically delta wave. Okay, and there is short PR interval. Okay, so how can you see which kind? Let us check on this. V1 is prominently negative or positive? Prominently downside. Okay, so if it is upside, I told you, if it is up, it is type A. If it is not A, then it is B. This is prominently downside. That means this ECG is suggestive of type B WPW syndrome.